We started working about 8 weeks ago, and the question we asked was, our customers want to know who is Apple and what is it that we stand for. Where do we fit in this world? And what we're about isn't making boxes for people to get their jobs done, although we do that well. We do that better than almost anybody in some cases. But Apple's about something more than that. Apple, at the core, its core value, is that we believe that people with passion can change the world for the better. That's what we believe. And we've had the opportunity to work with people like that. We've had an opportunity to work with people like you, with software developers, with customers who have done it in some big and some small ways. And we believe that in this world, people can change it for the better. And that those people that are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that actually do.
Pretty powerful, right? Imagine you were one of the 120 people wondering whether the company would still be around. How many of us just listening to that would go, oh, okay, I'm in this now? But can I see hands if you would have been moved? Interesting, right? Now, if you think about what Steve Jobs did there, what he said is, this is what we believe. That's what he said at that point. There's nothing else that he said. Now, let's just contrast that with somebody else. And not because I want to knock this other company. I don't want to do that. It is because one of the ways that we as human beings learn is we learn best by contrast. If you can see something that's the absolute contrast to that, you will absolutely get how profound this is, right? So here's the person we are going to contrast that with. This is Mr. Ballmer, as in he of Microsoft. And as I mentioned in the email to you, isn't it interesting that right now, in fact for the last 2 years, Apple's iPhone business, just their iPhone business, is bigger than Microsoft's entire business in the last 18 months. Isn't it interesting that over the last 10 years, Apple's stock has multiplied by 8,000 times from $2.67. Right? Isn't it interesting that and I'm not knocking them, right? I'm really not. It's just an interesting comparison. So here he is in front of his troops. This is painful. If it's too painful, just yell.
I have 4 words for you. I love this company. Yes!
Well, I'm inspired. Now, do you learn from the contrast? Right? Early on, some people said to me, I said, what brought you here? And some of them said, and I absolutely got what you were saying, well, it just sounded like I would get motivated by, well, see, that's what he's trying, see, that's not it. On one level, you hear Jobs is this very calm person just articulating a why. On the other, you hear this glitz and, boom, 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 and it doesn't cut it at all. It doesn't connect. Do you see again, I'm not knocking Microsoft. I'm really not. And by the way, the good news is, Mr. Ballmer, over the last several years, has had a lot of bad press about who he is. But in recent times, that's changed around a bit. And I have it on good authority that Windows 8, which comes out very soon, is going to be really, really cool. And the reason I have it on good authority, and the reason he's getting good press right now, is that my friend Simon has been working with him for 12 months. However, Bad habits die hard. I mean, you've got this thing coming out called Windows 8, right? And so what you can do is get some arty-farty person to design an inspiring logo for Windows 8, right? And you're going to spend $473,000 on this logo. Be inspired. Watch. Excuse me? I mean, like, how could you do that? I don't understand. Anyway, you get what I'm saying, okay? But the most important thing is with Mr. Jobs again right there. So how do you connect? You connect by articulating your why. And here's why. Because your why redefines everything. Everything. It is your why that truly inspires. Now, for me to say that is like, well, okay, Paul, you know, I get what you're saying it, but what I want you to do is I want you to experience that. So now, you remember this whole thing we got going, you know, I'm really thrilled to be sitting next to you, right, all that sort of thing. I want you to do that again when I say go. I go, wow, and now you're going to say to them, I can't believe what a privilege it is to be sitting next to you. Go for it. I can't believe what a privilege it is. Sitting next to you. Very good. Now, here's now I don't always do this, and frankly, when I got up this morning and I was thinking about, you know, how are we going to do this? I decided I wasn't going to do this. But just as a result of what happened in that first little time together, I decided we're going to do this. Okay, so and it's profoundly important. Now. But it's only because of who you are that we're doing this, so thank you. So here's what we're going to do. Would you just talk to the person next to you and work this out amongst yourselves? Someone be a number one, someone be a number two. Go ahead. Just notice there's no three in that. So just get together in twos, right? Number one, number two. Okay. Good. Excellent. Could I see the hands, please, of the number twos? Number two, show me your hand. Good. Number one, show me your hand. Wow, that's so interesting. When I say number two, show me your hand, this is what happens. You go like this. You go, number two, go like that. When I say number one, you go up. It's very interesting. Because all the number ones have said, you're number two, okay? So, born leaders. Now, if you would be a number one, yes, we'll do it this way. I am going to give you the chance, quite seriously, to profoundly, this is not sort of funny stuff, profoundly impact the lives of the number two. You okay with that? Right? And you're going to do it, and you're going to do it, and you're going to do it in 70 seconds flat. And you're going to do it, now some of us, by the way, that's stupid, isn't it, for me to sort of say you can do it in 70 seconds. Some of us may get there. It's really ridiculous for me to set it up that everybody could get there because it would be unusual if you did. So anyway, let me tell you what we're going to do. Who did I say is going to, number one is profoundly going to impact number two. Is that what I said? So number one, what you're going to do is ask number two a question. Now, before I get you to ask the question, let me just see this. How many of us have children? Can I see that? Wow, what a productive lot you are. That's very good. Okay. So if you have children, you would have experienced this scenario. Child says, why does the stool look like that? Well, we thought it's, you know, the way it was sort of presented, sort of fitted, you know, with the date. Yeah, but why? Well, like I said, yeah, but why does it have that? Why? Do you know what I'm talking about with kids? That's what they do, right? Now, number one, I want you to be a kid. In other words, whatever happens here, one of the things you're going to have to do, you're going to ask a question, and the number two is going to respond. Whatever their response is, I want you to say, now, and then they're going to respond to it, and then you keep saying, what? Now, please don't do it like a kid would do it, like, why? Because these people are grown adults and they're going to hit you, okay? So give them the courtesy. I mean, although you know what you're going to say, give them the courtesy of really listening to what they say before you ask the why. And be genuine about, oh, really, why? Do you see what I'm saying? Just be genuine. And then number two, just respond. Now, the first thing is, what is the question that you're going to ask? Well, number one, here's the question. You could ask, why do you get up in the morning? But as we mentioned earlier on, someone could say to have a pee, which would not be a good thing. So here would be, yeah, you could try that one. Why do you get up in the morning? Or number one, you could ask this question. Why do you do what you do? Just simply, why do you do what you do? I'm really interested. Why do you do what you do? And number two, you answer. And then when you answer number one, it's going to say, oh, really, why? Did you get that? And we're just going to do this for 70 seconds. And your time starts now. Go for it. Go. 2, 1. That's it. That's it. Okay. Whoa, we finished. Now, guys, would you shake each other's hand? Just say thank you. Go ahead. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, did anyone's life change yet? Don't answer that question. Don't answer that question yet. But let me ask you a couple. By the way, let me compliment you again, because if I was the number two there and I kind of set it up that I was going to be the, if I was the number two, I got to tell you, I would have gone to the toilet at that point. No, because that's very challenging. Why? Thank you. It's very challenging to have someone do that. So I seriously want you to please acknowledge each other for doing that. Would you do that? Seriously. Seriously. That's great. Now, here's the interesting bit. Let's see if we can glean some information from all of that. So number two, you were the one who said why you do. The number one asked, why do you do what you do, or why do you do it, or why do you get up? And then the number two responded. Is that correct? So let me just address the number ones for a minute. Number one, when the number two responded, the serious question now, how many of us as number ones thought to ourselves when the number two said, whatever it was they said, wow, that's pretty inspiring. No, that's okay. No. A couple, no. Remember I said that it's impossible for us all to get it, right? And it would be a miracle if everybody got it. But what's interesting is you start, all of us, whether we got it or not, have actually started a very interesting journey. But let's just see where this goes. If you didn't have your hand up, then it's really okay, all right? So let's just, the gentleman here, you had your hand up, and your first name is? Ian. And Ian, you were working with? Gemma. And do you know Gemma? Or first time. Okay, very good. Gemma, you were the number two. Is it okay, Gemma, and if the answer to this is no, then that's fine. Is it okay if we reveal what happened here? Yes. Thank you. Well, okay, Ian, so what happened? You said, why do you get up in the morning, or why do you do what you do? Yep. And Gemma said?
Gemma said that she enjoys working with a team and inspiring people and changing lives.
That's what she said?
Along those lines.
Wow. By the way, that's pretty cool, right? And then, no, that is pretty cool. And then you said, why? And don't worry about what happened there. But first of all, let's just acknowledge Ian and Gemma. Thank you. That's very interesting. Stay with it. Stay with it. Who else had their hand up on this one? Someone over here had their hand up, I think. No? Someone? You're not game because I'm about to reveal. I know. So come on. Who else had their hand up? Come on. Let's gentlemen. Oh, right back there. Okay. Your first name is? Brian. Brian, and you were working with? Brian. Okay. So Brian number two, you okay if we reveal? So Brian number one, what happened? You said, why do you get up in the morning, or whatever it was you said, and he said?
I think it was very similar in working with people to inspire them and connecting with them.
Is that what he said? And then you went, well, okay, very, very good. Again, can we do Brian squared? Thank you. Well done. Now, whether or not you, by the way, do you get that if you really were clear about your why, then when someone asks you, it would actually inspire them? Do you get that? But don't worry about the fact that it didn't happen. Don't worry about it, because we've forgotten how to do this. But let me just go a stage further for everybody here, because the key thing that I want to leave you with is not the fact that you got or did not get your why, but that you see a process for getting it. So show me this. When you asked why, then the number two responded. Now, show me your hand if this happened. The number two said, blah, 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 whatever it was. And then you said, oh, really, why? And then the answer that the number two gave lengthened. And then you said, oh, really, why? And then it lengthened some more. Show me hands if this is happening anywhere. Look at that. It's really, really cool. Now, what happens if you do this long enough, and you can, of course, do it with yourself as well, right? What happens if you do it long enough and sometimes people get it right up front, is there will be a moment where the length of the answer changes. It starts to shorten. And then there will be a moment, and I work with a lot of people one-on-one with this, and there will be a moment, and it's a little bit more complex than what you've seen here, but there will be a moment where they really get it. And how do I know that they've got it? Seriously, because the lump in their throat becomes so big, they can't even say it. That's how you know when you really got it. Does that make some sense? Now, please don't worry if you didn't get it in 70 seconds, because it takes some people nearly 70 years to get it. So if you can't get it in 70 seconds, it's really okay. So show me your hands if that sort of process you saw that sort of process going on, okay? Now, let me tell you something else about this. I did this in Farnham, down the south, and we did it at Farnham Castle. And after the program, we had a meeting with, I think, about 12 of the people who were in the room. And it was like a luncheon and stuff, and a working lunch, and I was there. And the person who was organizing the seminar fancied himself as a bit of a facilitator. So he said to everybody around the table, he said, oh, look, it was really great to be with us on the program with Paul. And Paul's here now, and I know he'd love your feedback. So why don't we just go around the room and figure out let's just tell Paul, what was the most important thing you got? Henry, why don't we start with you? So here's Henry. Henry's 54 years old. He says, look, I really enjoyed the program, but there was a moment where you completely lost me for 10 minutes. He said, I had no idea. If you asked me now, I would have no idea what went on during that 10 minutes. And I said, oh, really? That's interesting. I didn't expect that kind of answer, but what happened? He said, well, it was when you did that whole why thing, And he said, I was the number 2. And so I said, okay, so what happened? And he said, well, everything was going well, and then you asked the number 1s if what they said inspired them. If what the number 2, you remember? And he said, I was the number 2, and he said, the moment you asked that question, my number 1 did not put up his hand. And he said, yeah, exactly. And he said, I thought, you bastard, because, what I thought, and he said, he actually said, I was really upset, and you could see it, and verging on angry, he said. And for 10 minutes, Paul, I have no idea what happened in that room. And then he said, it finally hit me. And I said, oh, what hit you? And it was amazing. Here's this 54-year-old guy, got a really interesting business, and he started, his Adam's apple raised up, and you could see, and then his voice started to falter, and he said, 10 minutes went by, and he said, then I realized what happened. And I said, well, what do you realize? And he said, and then a tear came, seriously. And he said, because I realized that what I said to the number 1 right up front was what I've been saying to everybody in my business for the last 35 years. And you could see he just was finding so much difficulty getting the words out. And then he said, and I realized that what I've been saying, his words, not mine, is a host of crap. It's exactly what he was saying. So do you get that was a profound moment for him? Is everybody got that? So, and so what I want you to have is now that you've had at least the start of that, then just keep going with it. And it's not that you will get the answer to it, it's that you will be going on a process that will get you closer to the answer. Does that make sense? And notice this is not about visions or missions. It's about why you do what you do. And I'm going to show you some examples of this. Oh, by the way, look. By the way, do you get that that's all that Steve Jobs was saying? That's all he was saying. And take a look at what happened. Here's when he said it, way back over here. And look, world's most valuable company now. Look at that, 652 billion. Look, 54% more. Bang. I mean, you see all the numbers there. Look, there it is, 8,000% increase in that time. And I think it's because, I'm absolutely certain, it's because he was very, very clear. And when you read the book, it's absolutely clear. Everything he was about that. Now, when you go home from here, that's not a road in England, but I want you to imagine that road has lots of signposts on it, and it has, every signpost says why. And so that you get, every junction, you go, oh why, oh why, oh why, oh why, until you can articulate it. Because when you articulate your why, it changes everything. Let me show you another example. One of the things that we do with people who are part of us in B1G1 is I mentor them and stuff. Not just on their giving, but on everything else. This is a real estate agent. This is their site. Now, if we had internet access here, what would happen is this picture here would be changing, But do you get that that's about the same as every other real estate agent site? Because what are they selling? They're selling houses, and so they will have the pictures of the houses, true or false. That's exactly what they will have, right? That's what it looks like. Now, I said this guy's name is David. I said, David, first of all, I got a problem with this. By the way, he's paying a web designer a fortune for this, okay? And I said, I got a problem with this because there is a problem with the word change, and that is people don't necessarily like that. So the first thing I would do with you, words matter, is I'd just say enhance. See that one word changes it? Just enhance it. He said, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, we'll pass that on. But how about this? This is the most interesting piece. What happens if you replace the picture? Because where should your why be? The why should be front and center of everything that you do. We get up every morning, so you get to, what does it say? You get up to even better days. True. We get up every morning because we're passionate about how choosing real estate in the right way with the right people changes lives. And here we do even more than just enhance your life. See our Making an Impact page for more. Now, there's not too many words there, but do you get that that changes everything about that website? Show me your hands if you do. Isn't it interesting? It's really, really fascinating. But the traditional wisdom is you'll talk about what? You'll talk about the houses, the houses, the houses, the houses. The moment you talk about why, the moment you put it front and center, it changes everything. Not just for you, but for everybody on your team. Do you, guys, you're looking at me strange. Am I getting too passionate about this, or is this on track, right? Yeah. Now, by the way, does that take long to do? No. I mean, we figured that out really quickly in just a little mentoring call and stuff like this. By the way, once you've got it, here's an interesting question. Let me just go back. Let's take Fiona as a case in point. If I've got team members on my team, which I have, should their why be the same as my why? No. Of course not. By the way, if I've got multiple businesses, Richard Branson, 312 businesses, is the why for his business the same? Yes, for every single one of those businesses, it's the same. And it's all about being able to disrupt areas and have fun doing it. That's what his why is about, okay? Now, does that mean that everybody in Virgin has the same why? Of course not. But they need to know what it is you stand for so they can feel comfortable being on the team. So let me show you. Remember we said the power of an idea is only ever in its implementation? Let me show you how you do this. Not by having, big business plans and everything else. I'll show you, be very transparent. This is in B1G1. This is what we have. Look, here are our core values. By the way, I don't want you to say this is great or anything like that. I just want you to see transparently how you start to implement this. So why B1? See, look, here's our why. Here's the team's why, and here's my why. And everybody else on the team has exactly the same thing, except their why is different. Is everybody, here's the goals, blah, 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 blah. Now, you will have different goals than we do, and you'll have different numbers that you measure because of what B1G1 is, and you'll find out what that is in just a second. We're going to have different numbers. By the way, there's the whole thing, and that's my why right there. But like my PA, that's not her why. She's got a totally different PA. And here are the personal goals and objectives. So we've got the company ones up here, and then the personal ones. And if you look at the personal ones, people will have things in there. This is mine. They will have things in there like, lose 3 kilograms a week or whatever. They're very personal things. And guess what? We look at that every week. And notice it's not a business plan, but it's something that does everybody get that this kind of stuff, it's called the one-page plan, really keeps you on track? How many of us have one-page plans? I know Steve does, but I know Ian does. Anybody else? Show me your hands. Anybody think this would be useful to have? Yeah, you all think that? It's really, really good. And here's why it's interesting. Because moments matter, and what happens is, we've talked about that, and great leaders create those moments, and everyone, not just you, the leader, but everyone keeps score. So that we can see, how many goals are we scoring and all of that kind of stuff. So it's not measuring stuff, it's really keeping score. It's different things. So let me go back and visit with Simon again. Start with why. Remember, you're going to get something really interesting in a moment. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do what you do, they buy what you believe in. How about this? How many of us have a business that's relatively new, like maybe a couple of years old? Anybody have that? Oh, I know what it's like when you've got that sort of business. What happens is when you start the business, and it's true for every one of us who starts businesses, what happens is this. When we create something, we start to sell it to friends and families, and the friends go, yeah, I'll have one of those and whatever. But then pretty quickly we run out of friends and family, right? So then what happens is we now meet with a real person. And the real person says, they say, well, do you do this? And what happens if we're being really honest about it? We will say, well, yeah, we can make that happen. And how many can relate to what's going on here? Right? And then say, oh yeah, well, I didn't tell you about this. And the person will object. What about this? The person objects, and then what do? We say, oh, well, I forgot to tell you about this, and about this, and about this, and about this. And what we do is we keep adding what's into the equation. Because we believe that everybody, even if they just breathe, they should be a customer of ours. And that's stupid. How many of us have customers that we wish we didn't have? Notice that Ian Rogers' hand was not up at that point, which is really cool, right? And here's the challenge. Look at this. I love this from Simon. The goal is not to do business with everyone who needs what you do. It's to do business with those who believe what you believe in. Now, do you get that that's a different world? And for you to get into that different world, what do you have to do? Start talking about what you believe in. Do you think that real estate agent that I showed you is going to get a different set of clients coming in? You bet he's going to get a different, well, I can tell you he is. By the way, I love this one. Bad marketing manipulates, good marketing inspires. I love that. And the why is part of that, doing that. So where we're heading on this, show me your hands, guys, because we're nearly kind of there. How many think that what we just did was kind of useful? And yeah, happy with that? Really good, because I don't do that often the way that I just did it. So let me show you what happens when you get on purpose. Here is a company, you may have seen this company. I visited with them about 7 weeks ago. They're called Zappos. Now, Zappos sell running shoes, and they sell them on the web. And you can see that. You can go to Zappos. It's run by a guy called Tony Hsieh. You should read his book, by the way. It's a really important book. It's called Delivering Happiness. And here's what happens. By the way, do you get what's a major problem with selling running shoes on the web? What would be a major problem? They don't fit, right? Which is why when he sends you the shoes, there's a box with a prepaid label in it for you to send the shoes back. And that's good for 365 days. Pretty interesting. So what's happened? Look, he starts the business in 1999. You should read the story. In November 2009, he sells it to Jeff Bezos at Amazon for $1.2 billion. And he is very, very clear. I love this guy. He's very clear about what his why is. Look at this. Here he is, this Tony. He says, that's it. He says, my whole thing is about delivering happiness. On the boxes that the shoes come on, it doesn't say, we're delivering you shoes. It says, we're delivering you happiness. That's what he said. And seriously, I mean, that's stupid, right? So he says there's 4 things. People want to see that they've got perceived control, they've got perceived progress, or they're making that. Look at that. They measure connectedness, which is what we do at B1G1 as well. And he says it's all about vision, look at this bit. Vision, meaning, and purpose. This is how you turn it around. This is how you start to open things up. This is when you have something bigger than yourself. And when you have something bigger than yourself, yes, the profits flow, but more things than profit flow as well. That's that point about the first little point of that. Let me show you this. You don't need to take a note of this. Well, if you want to, you can. But what I want to show you is that the world is moving to this. This is a study. I'm not going to give you the whole study. How can I say it to you? Anyway, I'll just say the world is moving there. This is a study. Look at this. How the post-crisis values, post-crisis means post-2008 when, everything happened and the world went, what was it called? Black Rock? What's the building? What's it called? Northern Rock. What's it called? When all of that kind of stuff was happening. So what's going wrong? And how is that changing the way that we buy, sell, and live? It's kind of like a book that you want to get. Don't worry about getting the book, though, because I'll give you the essence of it here. Look at this. This book is based on a study that goes on every year for 20 years. It's been going on for 20 years. And it's not a study of, 600 people or something like that. Every year, they survey 1 million plus people. So it's really interesting stuff about what's going on, about how you're connecting with products and stuff like that. And they said in 2010, we have seen the most significant shift. Now, if you're selling something, whether you're selling something to consumers or whether you're selling something B2B, and you see someone say, we've seen the most significant shift, then it seems to me you better know what that is, right? So, and by the way, it was significant. It's a 400% change in a particular value. And again, you don't need to know that, don't need to note it, but let me just flip through it really quickly. They say people are now, it's measurable, that people have now got a newfound sense of purpose. Look at this. This is fascinating. 88% of people report that possessions have nothing much more to do with how happy they feel. That is fascinating. Now, if you're selling luxury items, does that mean that you can't sell luxury items? No, it just means you've got to do it in a different way. That's what that means. This one will not surprise you. It was in the toilet anyway. 50% decline in trust in government and large companies for the last 2 years. By the way, isn't it wonderful? Oh, look, has anybody ever done this where you go to say something and as you go to say it, you think, oh God, I shouldn't have said that, but then it's too late to suck it back? I just did that. Just forgive me. Something just came up in my mind that really impacted me as much as the Olympics impacted me. I'm sitting there in Singapore. I was born in Dover, by the way. And I'm sitting there going, wow, look at that. Wow, that's so cool. Everybody's getting so excited. And you know what I contrasted that with? I contrasted that with what happened 15 months ago when there were all the riots and all of that kind of stuff. And anybody, even though I've got a British passport, anybody who visits your country should not comment on what goes on. It's arrogant to do that, but having sort of started the sentence, I'm going to do it anyway. So you remember I said words matter? And you had all these terrible riots and it was like, oh my God, what's going on? And then I realized that Mr. Cameron, and this is not a political thing, he has this thing called, what's it called, Big Society, that thing. And I thought, if I were a kid that for whatever reason was feeling disempowered, for whatever, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but for whatever reason, and I wanted something to aim at, I would aim at big society, because that turns me off. Do you know what I'm saying? But if you just change the word and you call it one society, it changes everything. Do you see that? And what actually happened over the Olympics is we became one. It's very interesting. I don't know why I said that. Oh yeah, I know why I said it. Because of this whole thing about declining government. So people are redefining what it means to be successful and happy. What unites them is a newfound sense of purpose. And that's exactly what was going on during the Olympics. Look at this. Generosity, they say, is now the glue. This doesn't mean be the lowest price supplier. It means much more than that. Here are those 6 things that we mentioned before. Remember those 6 things? Let's revisit them again. Authenticity. Again, there's the thing. It comes when you actually say and do what you believe. Transparency. Look, people can find out about you by keying it up in Google. So why let them do that? I mean, why not just be transparent anyway. We talked about clarity. We know what that means. Just watch how you say things, because it's really about this belief thing here, which is all about the trust. Generosity, we're going to look at that in just a moment, and we talked about the link between clarity, trust, and certainty. And hopefully what you see through everything that we've spoken about today is all of those qualities coming through in the way in which we talk about it. Now, final little point on this report is this. We believe, they said, that the future face of capitalism will be defined, and there's a couple of words here that I really like. Has anybody been to a selling course? Anybody ever been to a selling course? Yeah, a few of us have. When you go to a selling course, they say to you, people buy value. That's what they say, right? And value is equal to benefits divided by the cost. That's what they say. So the only way to increase the value is to increase the benefit or to decrease the cost. Now, is that still true? Yes, it's still true. But look at this. It's by delivering value and values, which links back to that whole thing about why. Do you see that? That's why this is so important. And he says those that embrace this will adapt and find extraordinary opportunities. Now, this report is rather an interesting report. It runs to like about 11 pages. Let's then get on to where we're heading now from why. Oh, so we said it's about wow. We said it's about why. And what was the last thing? Ooh, so have a guess where we're going. Ooh, okay. Here's a guy called Jim Collins. You would have read his book, I'm sure, Good to Great, Built to Last. He says this, the great companies have a higher purpose. Just notice that. Just notice that. It's not about better advertising. It's not about, they have a higher purpose and they don't chase the money. This guy called Daniel Pink, if you want to get a good book, get the book called Drive by Daniel Pink. It's a fascinating book. He says this move to accompany profit maximization with purpose maximization, which is what we've been talking about, has the potential, by the way, he's wrong about this, has the potential to rejuvenate our businesses and remake our world. How is he wrong about it, Perry? It doesn't have the potential. It is changing it. It's no longer has the potential. So, who's this guy? Yes. Very lovely picture of him, isn't it? Not too many people have seen this interview. So have a look at this. How many would think, Branson knows where it's at? You have not seen this interview. Watch this.
I think that in the past, business people were apt to think, the politicians will look after, the medical side, the social issues of this world, and business will make the money, pay their taxes, and then the politicians will take it and spend it. I think the problem with that is that that politicians maybe don't have the experience that entrepreneurs have to really go out there and make a difference in the world, and that it's much better that politicians and business leaders work together, and the social sector work together. So I think that if every single business can find their niche in the world where they want to make a difference, then I think we can get on top of most of the problems of the world.
That's interesting. In other words, another way of saying that is, if every business gets on purpose, right, that would be another way of saying what he says, find its niche to make a difference. But let's just ask ourselves a couple of questions. Well, what if that was actually possible? What if? And what if it was actually possible for every business to do that? That is, in fact, what if it was possible not for you to do it and change lives? And what if it was possible to do that by doing just what you do? What if it was? Well, stay with me here now for 2 minutes. I want you to watch something. I want you to just imagine a slightly different world. Here we go.
Imagine there's no heaven. See as if you try. No hell below us. this only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no country. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be one. Imagine no
Buy one, give one. A simple idea, sharing the joy of giving. Every second, every day, in every way.
Thank you for watching that. I obviously get to see that most every day because I chair that company. This is what Buy One, Give One is. It's business giving, but totally reimagined in an entirely different way. So everything you think about business giving, just throw it away. And here's one of the things you need to throw away. In B1G1, when you give fully, and I do mean fully, 100% of what you give goes to where you want it to go. Now, do you get that that's really kind of rare? Yeah? And so the question you might ask then is, well, how does that happen? How can B1G1 continue to do nice things and yet 100% still goes? And the answer to that is because when people, Ian is one of them, when they see this, they go, whoa, that's something that I would love to be a part of, and as in the business would love to be a part of. And so they choose to belong, if you will, to B1G1. It's kind of like a club that you belong to, and it costs you $1 a day to belong to. I mean, that's it. It's really ridiculous. And from there on in, everything else goes. Look at this. Look. This is what happens. Here's in B1G1, you've got this list of projects, 634, and it's a wonderful way of expressing your gratitude. Now, you've got those envelopes, right? Go ahead. By the way, notice how it says don't open it. It doesn't say don't open it. What's it say? Please keep it tightly sealed. You see the different words matter, okay? So go ahead and open it and just have a look at what's inside. There's a business card inside, which you might want to keep, but also the thing that I want you to have a look at is that certificate. Because you didn't know this. You didn't know. We didn't tell you this is what's going to happen. So does yours say something like this? By being at this program with us, you've automatically, is that what it says? You check it out. Let me just explain what that means. Your first name is, again, your first name?
Sharon.
Sharon. That doesn't mean it's 57 children, Sharon. That means it's 57 children for you. Margaret, it means 57, Margaret, 57 children for you. Brian, I can look in two places at the same time and get it right. It means 104, 14, I'm sorry, for you. So if we add that together and we imagine that there are 100 people in the room, that's what? Someone need to give us, that's a lot of kids. And so again, you didn't know that you were doing that, but how cool is that? That just by doing what we do, that's what happened. Imagine if that was you being able to say to your customers, hey, you didn't know this happened when we did that coaching session, or you didn't know this happened when you dropped your kid off at the childcare, or you didn't, do you see what I'm saying? this would happen. And you can do it, here's an optometrist that does it, and they just have a little QR code on there and all of that kind of stuff. Now, we've looked at what about normal, but what about accountants? That's Ian's office. No, I'm kidding, it's not. It's not. But what about accountants? What on earth could accountants do? Well, what could they do? Well, he sometimes gives goats. And he says, just by becoming a client, Jacqueline, what happens is a family in Kenya, in this particular case, gets a sustainable income for the rest of their life as a result of you being a client. By the way, it's probably for the rest of the life of the goat. But Ian has no idea I'm doing this. So he's been in B1G1 for not very long, actually, not very long at all. Already, just as a result of doing what he does, look at that. 10,100 people got access to water, 25 families, that's the goat, got a sustainable income. This is an interesting one, 1,250 trees got maintained and protected, and 21 kids in need got a learning tool. Now, there's other things around that, but can we just, Ian, I know you didn't know I was going to do that, and you probably have words with me afterwards, but I think that's worthy of an acknowledgement. Thank you, man. Thank you. Very good. You get that's what great leaders do. And Brian, I love what you said on that as well. Great leaders inspire. By the way, what about bad leaders? Well, they expire, but not, but not quick enough. And by the way, you want a great measurement of what a leader is? A friend of mine, his name is Neil Donald Walsh, and Neil says this. He says, you measure a great leader not by how many followers the leader has. You measure a great leader by the number of leaders they create. Do you get that? That's really, really important so that everybody starts to get empowered. And really great leaders connect as well. And I'm absolutely convinced that this is how they do it now. With this new understanding, just like Steve Jobs there, of articulating your why and then popping it into the plan. Because that's what inspires. You saw yourself that that's what inspires. And they do it as well just by, as we summarize where we've been, by creating those great moments, because those moments redefine everything as well. If someone says to you, you were down at the Henry Ford thing, and what was that all about? Well, you could say, well, what we did, it was really cool. We went through wow, and we went through why, and we went through whoa, and we got a lot of insights and very simple things. But fundamentally what it was about was really saying this, that business has the power to change lives. Now you could say that, and that would be a very good way of presenting it. My challenge with it is if you said that, it would be like as if you were watching the game rather than playing the game. So if you were playing the game, you wouldn't, like, it's the difference between a spectator and a participant, right? So the spectator would say that, the participant would say, my business has the power to change lives, right? So that's, if there was one thing that I wish I could wave my magic wand on, it would be that. And the reason is because when you do that, your business really automatically, as we said right up front, becomes an inspiring place for everybody, everywhere to be. So, on our journey today, let me ask you a question. As we went through, did you get some kind of whoa, kind of ha-ha moments, some things that made it, can I see your hands if you got some insights and some ideas? You did. Now, which is really great. That's the right answer, by the way. Now, so let's just quickly recap. We said it's about adding speed, and we had a word for adding speed. What was the word? Wow. The word was wow. Then we had adding purpose, and we had a word for that, which was? Why? Very good. And then we had this middle one, which you're all going to get. It is whoa. And we said that you can't do it like that. What you've got to do is do that, right? And you've heard this thing, haven't you, about ripple in a pond. You've heard that? And what I know, and I just am so grateful for where I'm at because I'm able to do this, and I know that when you do this, it absolutely transforms. It absolutely transforms the enterprise in ways that will stagger you, seriously. Now, but the interesting thing is, it doesn't just transform the enterprise, because we're all part of this community, if you will. So it actually transforms the community, meaning the people with whom you deal, the customers with whom you deal, as well as the local community where the people come from in your business. And of course, once you transform the community, then guess what else happens? Then you transform the country. It's like, you know, just that little ripple on the pond. And then when we transform the country, what happens is we transform our world. And that is why I do what I do. And I want to thank you for giving me an astonishing morning and sharing this journey with me. Thank you so much. You have been awesome.